In 2004 and 2005, we saw the release of the original Star Wars Battlefront games, classic games that explored the thrills of playing as a frontline soldier in the most epic battles in a galaxy far, far away. And after the highly anticipated Battlefront 3 was cancelled, fans were left waiting for over 10 years for another game in the Battlefront franchise. But all of that changed in November of 2015 with EA's release of Star Wars Battlefront. But was this game the spiritual successor to the classic Battlefront 2 that fans always dreamed of? So guys, in this video, we're going to be taking a look back at Star Wars Battlefront EA from 2015 to see if 10 years after its launch, where does it stack up amongst the other games in the Star Wars Battlefront franchise, because I feel like this game has a pretty unique slot amongst those other games, and I can't wait to talk about it. But guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it for you guys, and if you do, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. But guys, let's dive into the video. The hype was pretty wild when DICE dropped the first teaser trailer for Star Wars Battlefront. The original Battlefront games became instant classics with their sandbox gameplay and their overall focus on fun over anything else. Kinda like playing with your Star Wars action figures when you were a kid, but in a virtual space. But would this new game be the Star Wars Battlefront 3 we always wanted, or something new entirely? But a lot of our burning questions on what kind of game this new Battlefront game would be answered when we got our first look at gameplay at the E3 gameplay demonstration. And this demo blew me away. Of course, the whole thing was incredibly scripted, but this first look at gameplay made Star Wars Battlefront look like a Star Wars action thrill ride of the likes we'd never seen before. You saw Hoth like we'd never seen it in a game, with towering AT-ATs, starfighters dogfighting in the skies, and even some Jedi gameplay, culminating in a confrontation with Darth Vader. This gameplay presentation did exactly what it was supposed to do, showed fans that being a soldier on the front lines of these classic Star Wars battles was back, and it was going to be more epic than ever. Though when it came to this new Battlefront, a lot of fans were pretty disappointed in the fact that the game was only going to take place during the battles set in the original trilogy, which is kind of a bummer when you compare the varied locations and eras of the original Battlefront games, and not to mention the lack of epic space battles. Fans of the Clone Wars or even the upcoming sequel trilogy would be left high and dry into the next Battlefront game 2 years later, with this new Battlefront game focusing exclusively on the battles of Hoth, the Junlin Wastes, the Forest Moon of Endor, and Sullust. But when fans finally got their hands on this new Battlefront game, one thing we could all agree on is that this game is gorgeous. For the first time ever, gamers got to feel what it was like to actually explore the Forest Moon of Endor, or the scorching Junlin Wastes of Tatooine, or even the frozen plains of Hoth, in game environments so painstakingly recreated that it felt like you're actually playing through the battles of the films of the original trilogy. And showed fans from the explosion of sparks from every blaster bolt to the epic sight of AT-ATs crumbling to their knees, this game would deliver the battles of Star Wars in a way we had never seen before. But it wasn't just the visuals that would see a huge overhaul, but the sound design as well, as never before in a Star Wars game did blasters pack such a punch. But it wasn't just the audio quality that was so great, but the accuracy as well, as past Star Wars games wouldn't always use the correct sounds from the movies, and this would be fixed in this new Battlefront. Making these epic battles not only look more accurate than ever, but sound more authentic than any other Star Wars game that came before. But the star of the show when it came to Star Wars Battlefront 2015 was Walker Assault, a multiplayer mode that pit the overwhelming power of the Empire and their towering AT-ATs against the defenses of the Rebel Alliance. Gameplay would see the Imperial team escorting their walkers across the battlefield, destroying Rebel defensive lines along the way to their ultimate goal, be it to destroy a shield generator or a Rebel transport ship. While the Rebel Alliance team would form defenses to stop the Empire by calling in Y-Wing bombers in an attempt to destroy the Empire's AT-ATs to win the game. It was the mode showed off in the E3 demonstration, and it was a fun mode that always felt super cinematic. Though it left a lot of Battlefront fans wondering, how could you ship a Battlefront game without conquest? Capturing command posts was so ingrained into the DNA of previous Battlefront games that even though Walker Assault was a great time, it can never truly replace the star mode of the franchise's history. And it left a lot of fans wondering if this new Battlefront should even be called Battlefront at all, but I'm sure the inevitable sequel to this game will launch with Conquest Day 1 to make up for the lack of Conquest in this game.
Tim,
But the honest truth is that Star Wars Battlefront 2015 wasn't a Battlefront game at all, but instead felt more like a Star Wars Battlefield game, which is kind of strange considering Conquest Mode is still a staple of the DICE Battlefield games, but even though a Star Wars Battlefield game wasn't necessarily a bad thing, as the game was still a blast to play, it left the fans of the original Battlefront games feeling like they weren't being catered to. Instead of focusing on the sandbox nature of the classic Battlefront games, instead this game focuses on delivering a more linear roller coaster experience with its modes like Walker Assault that feel epic every single time you play, though they mostly play out the same every single match. As opposed to the sandbox conquest mode seen in the classic Battlefront games, which felt a bit more open-ended and replayable, with also more of an emphasis on fun with wild modes like Hunt and Hero Assault that were more focused on fanfare as opposed to making a super balanced multiplayer experience. But for me personally, the biggest disappointment when it came to Star Wars Battlefront 2015 was the lack of single-player content. It had these training missions that served more as a tutorial for the game's multiplayer mechanics, but the game had no campaign and no way to play through the epic multiplayer battles in an offline setting. Which was a huge bummer because so many players' love of the Battlefront franchise came through playing through these epic battles in the classic Battlefront games in instant action. Though what I find really interesting is eventually, a long while past launch, DICE added skirmish mode in an update that allowed single-player fans to play both Walker Assault and Starfighter Squadron offline against bots. Which was a huge win for solo players, but what I find really interesting about this is that since the game's player base is basically dead, skirmish mode is the one thing keeping this game alive and is why I'm even able to record this video now. So yeah, whoever makes Battlefront 3, don't ignore the voices of solo players, it kinda matters a lot. And though Star Wars Battlefront 2015 didn't have a single-player campaign, its sequel did. And though the campaign was pretty meh, the single-player community of Star Wars Battlefront 2 is fueled with the return of instant action and a supremacy mode that focuses on capturing command posts and is actually super fun. Imagine that. But if the fans eventually get what we want and we actually receive an actual Star Wars Battlefront 3, devs, if you're watching, let me give you some tips. Launch with Conquest. Also, launch with instant action and take care of your solo boys and girls. And if you must do a single player campaign, don't worry about making some original sprawling story that takes place all over the galaxy, just keep it simple. I think you should look at what made Battlefield 1's War Story so great and give us a Star Wars version of War Stories. One could be a story of revenge as Imperial snowtroopers descend from AT-ATs in the Battle of Hoth to avenge friends murdered by rebels on the Death Star. What would it look like to play as the Empire when they fully believe they are the ones in the right? Are the troopers riding in the back of the AT-AT all angry and out for revenge? Is one of them scared? Keep it simple. Maybe even have another war story focused on a battle droid that follows through his assembly in a factory all the way to his destruction in some battle in the Clone Wars. Or even a Jedi War story where we try to survive Order 66. Short and sweet story arcs that take place all over these epic battles in Star Wars that made all of us fans of the Battlefront franchise in the first place. Well guys, you made it to the end. Thank you for watching this retrospective of Star Wars Battlefront, the first one that EA had made. And as I said at the beginning of the video, I feel like this game stands pretty uniquely amongst the other games in the Battlefront franchise, and just like the original Battlefront is immediately forgotten about because of its sequel that came out a couple years later. But I feel like there's some things that this Battlefront games that are does that are pretty unique, like modes like Walker Assault that I think are a lot of fun, and I would love to see carried over into what I hope will be a Battlefront 3. But if you're going to make Battlefront 3, you can't just have a mode like Walker Assault. You have to launch the game with Conquest. It's not Battlefront if you're not running around with your friends capturing command posts. Don't add the mode after the fact, have it there at launch. Same with instant action. Don't add it after the fact, have it there at the beginning so that it's a complete package the day the game comes out. Remember when games used to do that? I do, but as a fan who wants to see Battlefront 3 happen, and hopefully it does happen with all this attention that Battlefront's getting seemingly out of nowhere, it needs to launch as a complete package. And that would be fantastic. It would be a home run. Everybody wants it. Just make it happen. But either way, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to drop a like on it. It helps the video reach new fans, and as I always say, that's always a good thing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you watched all the way to the end of this video, what are you doing? But as I said, that's all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.